In this tutorial, we're going to go over how to import your FBX from your Extends motion capture session into Maya and get it ready to be put on your character rig. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Maya, I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go to Import, and then go to the directory where you have your FBX motion capture animation file. So select your shot, and then we're going to import that in, and that's going to come in as a T-pose, and I'm going to just kind of zoom out here, and if I hit play, we should see your animation running. So as the animation runs, check it all the way through, make sure it works. Now you might have noticed on the very beginning of the animation it was in a T-pose. So what that means is we have to characterize our skeleton for the human IK system to be able to transfer or retarget that animation onto another human IK rig. So that's what we're going to do here. The other thing I was kind of noticing with this animation, it was also captured at 60 frames per second. So we need to also change that. We need to work somewhere around 30 frames per second. So let's go ahead and change that. Let's go down to the bottom where the timeline is and find 60 frames per second and change that to 30. If it's already 30 frames per second, you're fine, just leave that alone. But if you're anything different, if you're 24 frames per second, that should be okay also. Make sure you run through your timeline, make sure you get all your animation that you want. So there's a little bit of animation where the actor got that recorded from the actor, so that's the end of that performance, right about 5:27. So I'm just going to punch that in both spots, and then that's how far that animation is going to go and run. So go in there and set your range of your animation. Just pick out the part you want using the frame range right down here. Alright, let's go back to frame 0 where we're in the T stance. So now we want to bring up the human IK panel. So you can come up to the top of Maya and there's this little tiny icon. Toggle the character controls on. So it's just like this little rag doll up here at the top. Click on it. It gives you the human IK dialog box, and then here you want to go to the middle here on the top section, create character definition. Click on that, and what you want to do is you want to go right to the middle, the hip joint of this little UI layout of a human. Just double click on it so it highlights only that particular joint, and then go to your rig and select the corresponding joint for that character and double click it, and there you go, and it should turn green, and you should see all the animation data that's associated with that joint. That's good. Now what's happening here is that we're going to connect all these joints to each joint on this UI of the human IK system. The problem is it can be pretty tedious. You just keep going, double click, and then select the corresponding hip joint, and then you just keep going. There's a much quicker way of doing this, and that's basically because when the Extends motion capture system did the FBX export for this reference of animation, you can go into the outliner here, and it named it in a very specific way. Well, this naming convention is used for the human IK system. So the human IK system is going to pick this naming convention and then assign all the joints for us automatically, so which is great. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up to the top here, pick on this little folder, double click it, and it's going to say load skeleton definition, and then we're going to pick a template, which it already defaults to the human IK, HIK. We're going to make sure that's selected, everything default, and then just go ahead and hit OK, and there it is. Everything pretty much turns green. Everything's ready to go. The most important thing is we need to lock that character definition. So right up here, there's a little padlock. Lock that down. And now we have defined this animation just perfectly. So what we're going to do, because we don't need this T-stance anymore, because this T-stance was there to help us connect the human IK to, or this skeleton to the human IK system, we don't really need it anymore. We could delete the frames on it, or we can just take it out of our frame range. So if I go back to the timeline down here and I enter frame 1 on both of these windows here, it automatically, if I move this, moves that T-stance out of the animation. And this is basically our performance right here. One more thing we could do is we can also name this. Makes it a little bit easier. It's better than just character 1, which the human IK system defaults to. So you can click on this blue box, click on it, and say rename character, and you just can call it whatever it is. I'm just going to call it dance, and then hit save. Perfect. And now let's save this off. Go to File, and we're going to do Save As, and I'll just call it Dance. And I'm going to save it as a Maya ASCII file, and we should be good to go. Hit that save. And now in the next video, I'm going to show you how to associate that dance animation to your character rig.